National parks are home to incredible views. These areas are important as they help to preserve and protect wildlife, along with rocks, plants and trees. They are a haven for wildlife and are enjoyed by millions of people every year. Hikers appreciate national parks as they are free from development and have been largely unaltered, allowing visitors to enjoy cleaner air and natural ecosystems. Not everyone has a normal trip though. There's some who end up encountering things that they didn't expect, leading them to question the true nature of national parks and whether they're hiding something not quite human. A post was submitted to Reddit in which someone detailed their encounter with something strange. They said the following: "I've worked and lived in North Carolina for 30 years now, and this is the first time that I've experienced anything strange. I often travel around the various national parks that can be found throughout North Carolina, and on this one occasion I saw what I can only describe was a large 7-foot tall creature. My encounter happened while I was exploring the Appalachian National Scenic Trail, a long 2,000+ mile area full of woods. While here I kept hearing loud knocking sounds coming from around me. Thinking it was perhaps a species of wildlife, I decided to head in the direction of the sound, but as I did the noises got fainter and fainter, so I thought that whatever was causing it most likely moved on. As it was getting dark, I remember that I was in a small clearing, and suddenly everything around me went silent. It was really bizarre and a little worrying as I was alone. I'm 63 and didn't want to get caught out by anything, and so decided that now would be a good time to head back. As I was walking back through the small opening though, I could see something between 4 trees. I'd say the trees were around 50 meters away, quite far but enough that I could pick up on details. It looked like something was peering through the gaps in the 4 trees, and then darting behind them. As I peered through again though, I got a much better look at what it was, and the only way I can describe it is that it looked like a giant human, covered in dark brown fur and possessing a low vocal range. Shortly after this, I turned and made my way back as quickly as possible, looking behind my shoulder to make sure that this thing wasn't chasing me. To this day, I can't explain what it was that I encountered. I keep trying to tell myself that it was some type of animal, but I know that it was definitely humanoid in appearance." End quote. Oddly enough, many humanoid creatures are often encountered by people in national parks, leading amateur researchers to suggest that they may live within these regions, and this is why they're not often encountered by humans. Interestingly, encounters with these creatures isn't anything new. One interesting account comes from 1800. Located on the border of the state of Florida and Georgia is a 438,000-acre swampland that stretches across the state borders and houses a wide variety of undiscovered animals and insect species. This peat-filled wetland, referred to as the Okefenokee Swamp, has been at the center of several encounters with the skunk-ape creature, and is often believed to be the last unexplored refuge of the creatures in the modern day. Even more interesting, the name Okefenokee is a native Creek Indian word that roughly translates to mean the land of the trembling earth, and seems to reference a massive creature that's known for shaking the earth as it walks. The oldest known skunk-ape encounter to have occurred within the Okefenokee Swamp was reported back during the winter of 1828. According to the report made by 2 eyewitnesses, both of them were amateur hunters looking to explore the surrounding area. The 2 men came across what they referred to as a giant. Originally, their expedition began as a short hunting party, but rather than turn back at the height of their excitement, the 2-men trip continued for another several weeks, as they travelled deeper into the swamp, recording brief encounters with bears, panthers, alligators, and overgrown snakes. Roughly 3 weeks into their hunting trip, The men claimed to have heard the sound of loud screaming. However, the screams sounded much deeper and louder than a man could naturally produce. As they gazed around the woods surrounding their camp to investigate the source of the noise, the men then heard what they described as the sound of heavy stomping, as if a large creature was running around the woods. Unsure whether or not the creature was a large wild animal or a distressed man, the two hunters decided to light a fire and stay within the proximity of their makeshift camp until daylight, as the day was soon ending and darkness was fast approaching. Despite the roaring fire to keep the nearby woods illuminated, the men complained that they were unable to sleep due to the strange sounds, but said that no creature could be seen within the area. By next morning, the men investigated the nearby woods and wetlands, hoping to find any evidence of a creature having prowled their camp the night prior. After a few hours of looking, the men claimed that they came across several barefoot human-looking footprints that would have been impossible for any person to have made, mostly due to the fact that the footprints were spaced roughly 6 feet apart and were an estimated 18 inches in length. Worried that the creature might return, the hunters fled the swamp and returned to town. The story of the encounter with the unknown swamp giant does not end there though. Once the two hunters returned to the closest town, they told the nearby townsmen of what they had encountered and warned that a monster may soon attack the town. Fearful of the beast, the town gathered together a hunting party of 9 men to hunt down the beast and kill it before it could attack anyone. Gathered together, the men went into the swamp and travelled as far down as the southernmost part, now located in the state of Florida. After several days of searching the area, the men located sets of footprints far too large for any normal man to have created, and used the footprints as a trail guiding them directly to the giant. As the men began following the footprints, they noticed that they were often spaced increasingly further apart, sometimes disappearing completely and then reappearing elsewhere in the swamps, as if the creature climbed and then jumped between trees for travelling. Before long, the trail was completely lost, and the 9 men decided to make camp for the night and begin their search again at daybreak. Unfortunately for the band of men, during the night the creature would invade the camp and attack the hunters in a fit of rage. According to the 9 witnesses, a massive humanoid creature covered in hair all over its body suddenly ran through camp, toppling over several tents and then began tearing through the equipment. Fearing for their lives, the men grabbed their guns and fired at the creature, causing the giant to retaliate and taking out 5 members of the group. The remaining 4 members continued firing at the creature, sending several rounds of the bullets through its chest, before the creature fell down in a low grumble and passed away shortly after. After closer examination of the giant's body, the men estimated the humanoid creature to have been slightly over 13 feet, and appeared to look exactly like a man with the exception of its tremendous size and full body covering of hair. While observing the body, however, the men continued to hear the sounds of screaming in the surrounding woods, similar to what the 2 hunters had experienced on their journeys several days prior. Believing that the screaming could be coming from a dozen more of the giant creatures, the men packed up their equipment and began moving out of the swamp during the night, unable to wait until morning out of fear that another attack would take place. Once the 4 men returned to the nearest town, they told the townspeople what happened to the 5 other men who were attacked, and they estimated that a dozen more of the giant creatures were still out there. Fearing that an attack would eventually reach the town, the men began travelling throughout the area and warning people of an impending attack from giants. On the 1st of January 1829, a local reporter that wrote for the Georgia newspaper Statesman would interview the men and retell their story for local publishing. By February of that year, less than 30 days after the original publication, reprintings of the story spread to the neighbouring communities and would see a February issue published in the Connecticut newspaper The Sentinel, warning travelling parties to stay clear of the Okefenokee Swamp. After a few decades, the sensationalism of the story eventually died down and became nothing more than a local legend. To this day, travellers are still warned of the Okefenokee Swamp giants and told to be careful when going through the region. So what do you make of these interesting stories? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.